Hello everyone, myself Venu Sambari and working as a lecturer in mechanical engineering from Government Polytechnic Varangal. So as we have observed some video lessons regarding the refrigerants, and in continuation of that, as last video sessions we have elaborately discussed on the requirements, properties, and some useful refrigerant properties. What are the primary and secondary, the classifications we have seen, some sub classifications. And in now today's lecture it will goes on uh, just like a introduction part, a few topics which they are important, like a case studies. It may be useful in while you are studying regarding the refrigerants. This topic may be useful for further studies. Okay. And the topics are like a ozone depletion. So what is the relation to these refrigerants, ozone depletion? I'm using the word in the, if you observed the previous video sessions also, ozone depletion potential, ODP. It should be low, as we have seen some one of the requirement or of a the refrigerant what we are choosing for a particular application, ozone depletion. So we will see regarding on that. And why the chlorofluorocarbon refrigerants, where it containing the chlorine atoms, chlorine elements, they are getting phased out. It means they are eliminating out. And we will see what is that case. And similarly we will see the some Montreal Protocol and Kyoto Protocol. So what are these terms, and what are the importance of these terms, we will see in this today's lecture. So first, and also there is a one left out topic in the previous video class, that's regarding the differences between the primary refrigerant and the secondary refrigerants, that will also cover in this today's session. So coming to the objectives, I already just noted down, that is ozone depletion, phasing out of CFC refrigerants, Montreal Protocol and Kyoto Protocol, and the differences between the primary and secondary refrigerants. Okay, so I think you will get information regarding these topics, and these are the objectives of our today's video class. So here, coming to ozone depletion, I think everyone has a some the basic idea or primary idea regarding the ozone layer, right? The ozone layer, where you can, it cannot be visible, but just as a scientific whatever the rule is there, from the scientific proven thing we are having, it means whatever we are living on the earth. So on the earth we're having the different layers. It means we are considering those are the atmospheric layers. Okay, over the earth, like whatever the atmosphere present, whatever we are living, that atmospheric the area what you are taking, the first layer can be taken as a troposphere, the atmospheric layer above the earth. And similarly above the troposphere you can see like stratosphere. And similarly stratosphere, next you can see the mesosphere. And similarly above the mesosphere layer you can see the thermosphere. And above the thermosphere you can see the exosphere. So like this, there are different layers present above on the earth surface. So here this ozone, a layer, ozone layer is there, so which is protecting us from the radiation effect which is getting from the sun directly. So this ozone layer, nothing but it is a uh, it is having the molecules containing the oxygen, O3 molecule. Generally we are representing as O3, the oxygen molecules, which it contains the three atoms of oxygen. And it will forms like a layer which it presents in the earth's stratosphere. It means atmospheric, whatever the layer is there, that is in the stratosphere layer. Moving on to the elevation, after the troposphere there will be stratosphere at a some particular distance, in some kilometers range. This stratosphere is a stratosphere range will be there. So in that we can see we can find the ozone layer, so which is protecting us from the ultraviolet rays or ultraviolet radiations which is coming directly from the sun, and that it will protects the life. The you take any human being or any animals, whatever the life living things are there on the earth, so it is protecting us from the uh, this high concentration UV radiation. So this is regarding the ozone. What is the depletion? I'm using the word ozone depletion potential. We'll see that. First, we have got some information regarding this ozone layer, right? Similarly, depletion in the sense nothing but the destroying or destruction or like damaging of the ozone layer. What happens? What happens if depletion or the destruction or damaging of this ozone layer will take place? Obviously the UV rays, if it falls on the living things or on our human body, it will create some health hazards like uh, the frequent contact with these UV rays. It will result in the cancer also, some skin cancer or some very infectious diseases will be developed, and also it will result in the overheating of the Earth's atmosphere, nothing but the global warming, where it results like global warming is nothing but the greenhouse effects. So the gases present or gases which are released over the Earth's atmosphere, it may react overly, and the temperature of the Earth's temperature will drastically increases. That is a global warming. So this is the thing what will happen if the destruction of ozone layer will take place. Now what is ozone depletion potential, ODP? As we have seen, this ozone depletion potential should be low. So ODP means nothing but, so it is a measure of the possibility effect on the ozone layer. It means how much effect it is taking place. Just it has a measure that uh, what is the effect that is taking place on the ozone layer by the chlorine atoms, right, or chlorine elements which is released from the refrigerants. Here why it is related to the refrigerants, in the sense as we have seen, there are some CFCs refrigerants, chlorofluorocarbon refrigerants, where it contains the chlorine atoms. This chlorine atom, when they are exposed to uh, atmosphere, what happens, or when it reacts within the atmosphere, they will, the chlorine atoms will mix up with the, so we will see in the next chapter, that is regarding why these CFCs are phased out, we will see that. So if you understood this ODP, it's a measure of the possibility effect, how much effect is taking place on the ozone layer by these chlorine atoms released due to the refrigerants or due to the compounds. There are a lot of different combination of refrigerants out there. So this is called as ozone depletion potential. At every time this must and should be low, right? So then only we can protect the ozone layer, then only simultaneously it will protect us without falling the UV rays on our human body. Okay, so this is regarding the ozone depletion. And now we will see why it is uh, completely it is getting out. It means we are eliminating all these chlorofluorocarbon refrigerants. Why? Because when they react with the gases, or when they react with the whatever the Earth's atmosphere gases, or for example if it mixes with uh, the carbon, CFCs are released to the atmosphere. If it uh, reacts with the ozone molecules, you take ozone only, ozone nothing but it containing the three atoms of the oxygen, O3. When it reacts with that ozone molecules, they will convert into the oxygen molecules. What happens to that layer? That layer will become thinner and may chance to form the holes. Thinning, what happens? The layer becoming thin, and there is a formation of hole where that UV rays will directly come and directly fall on the earth, or directly fall on our human beings or any other living things. So it will completely destroy the ozone layer, right? So this is the reason why the CFCs or the carbon content refrigerants are getting phased out or completely eliminating out. we are uh, uh, we're not producing, the manufacturers are not producing, they are gradually they are replacing that refrigerants uh, with the elimination of the carbon content refrigerants, like hydrocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons, HCs, HC refrigerants or HFC refrigerants, like this. So these refrigerants will not contain the chlorine atoms, so there is a less possibility of the ozone depletion potential, or very low or completely no ozone depletion potential will be there. So that is the reason why they are getting phased out or completely eliminated these chlorine content refrigerants. So this is regarding the phase out of chlorofluorocarbon. Coming to the protocols, what you have seen, the Montreal Protocol and Kyoto Protocols. So these two are uh, just a slight difference will be there. These protocols are nothing but they are the agreements made between the different nations, like all the whatever the unified nations are there, the agreements are made, or they are the signing the treaty by uh, for keeping the environment safe, or keeping uh, the low ozone depletion, completely depletion of that ozone should be reduced. So based on these things, the treaty was signed. Coming to this Montreal Protocol, so it was signed on 26th August 1997. Almost it is 33 years, 34 years, it may be coming to 34 years. And that it will be uh, came into existence on 26th August 1989. After 2 years, they have implemented to strictly follow by all the nations. The protocol has to be followed. So what is that Montreal Protocol? So this protocol was signed based on the refrigerant substances, or the substances which are depleting the ozone layer, mainly on the ozone layer, where the destruction of ozone layer is taking place. So to protect that ozone layer, by how it can be protected, just by scientific implementation, just they have identified that chlorine atoms are responsible for depleting this ozone layer. So we have to phase out that chlorine atoms from the refrigerants, and bring out other refrigerant in place of that chlorine content refrigerants. So that is a where that substances will avoid the ozone depletion. So this Montreal Protocol has responsible for the phasing out of all these chlorofluorocarbons and hydrochlorofluorocarbons, HCFCs and HCFCs. So they are completely they are not they have to ban completely, and no other companies, they have to produce these kind of the refrigerants which are responsible for the ozone depletion. So this is regarding the Montreal Protocol. Whereas Kyoto Protocol, this is mainly regarding the global warming. It means the greenhouse effect. As you know that greenhouse effect, I don't want to explain it again, it elaborately. Whatever the gases present within the atmosphere, or that uh, when it reacts more, what happens, the warming, it means more the heat is, or the temperature of the earth's the layer, it is becoming higher and higher. So this Kyoto Protocol is it is also an international agreement where it commits to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, which is responsible for the change of the climate changes. As we've seen that the climate changes, very high temperatures during the summer seasons and very low temperatures creating during winter seasons, melting of the ice at Antarctica. So you can see these climatic changes. So what is the thing what you have to do, that this under this Kyoto Protocol, the greenhouse gas emissions has to be controlled to reduce the global warming by reducing the gas concentrations in the atmosphere up to a particular level. And also that uh, that would prevent the dangerous the anthropogenic interference. That means the human interference. Human, what we are regenerating the different types of the gases or whatever the dangerous gases are there due to human interferences. The things are developing. So these things will controlled by this agreement, Kyoto Protocol, where it results in good climate system. So these are regarding these and this Kyoto Protocol has came into existence in 11th December 1997. 11th December 1997. Further, the committee reconstituting for every 3 to 5 years, and they will do the reviews on each and the changes which are made on the like ozone layer, and also the the greenhouse emissions, gas emissions, like global warming, like that. Okay, so this is regarding this Montreal and Kyoto Protocol. So hope you have understood, got some information regarding the topics what you are discussing. And coming to the basic differences, just you can I will go through these things. You can understood it very easily, the differences already we have seen regarding what is primary and what is secondary refrigerants. So the first point is they directly take part in the refrigeration system, that is regarding the primary refrigerants. As already told, that will move in the uh, within the system, the refrigerant which is flowing in the pipeline, so it will directly takes place in the system and it will gives the cooling effect, right? Whereas the secondary refrigerant, that it itself will not gives the cooling effect. What it is doing, it will receives the cooling effect first from the primary refrigerants. For example, the primary refrigerant like R11, R12, R134A, like that. The secondary refrigerants, as I already told, that the brine solution or NaCl, CaCl solution mixing along with the water or ice, like that. So first of all, it is cooled by the primary refrigerants. Then it is used for further cooling purposes. Storing whatever you are storing something, there we can send the secondary refrigerant, and you can store that secondary refrigerant for longer time, and cooling can also be maintained for the longer time. Coming to the second point, under primary refrigerants, cooling is produced by absorption of latent heat, where you can observe in the evaporator, where the heat exchange is taking place, and the refrigerant which is flowing inside the pipeline in the evaporator coil, it changes its phase by exchanging the heat, by the absorption of the latent heat. It changes its phase from liquid form to the vapor form, that is vaporization taking place in the evaporator by giving out the cooling effect. Whereas the secondary, the cooling is produced by absorption of sensible heat only, by absorption of sensible heat, where there is no change of phase of particular refrigerant, that secondary refrigerant is taking place. Coming to third point, already we have taken that it undergoes the phase change from liquid to vapor and vapor to liquid during each cycle, whenever they are circulating in different components, as we have seen in the VCR cycle, it will taking place. Whereas the secondary refrigerant, I already told, there is a no, it will not undergo any phase change during the cycle, each cycle. Okay, and coming to primary refrigerants, the chances of leakage is more. Why? Because they are operating at higher pressures. Some of the refrigerant or some of the equipments are operating at high pressures, and having some vibrating components, there may be a chance of leakages, few chances, and chances of leak is very less obviously in the secondary refrigerant. Why? Because we are not using any pumping uh, uh, pumps, or like any, no, we are not using any equipments specially for that these secondary refrigerants, so chances of leakage is less. They are not very pressurized one also. Whereas coming to primary refrigerants, they are more efficient compared to the secondary refrigerant, and having high capacity, and used for high capacity refrigerating systems where it requires higher temperatures, like that. So secondary refrigerants are less efficient, but they're suitable and not suitable, sorry, they're not suitable for high capacity refrigerating system. As we have seen, that application is only it, it's giving out the cooling effect by absorbing the sensible heat. It means lower temperatures, for normal lower temperatures only it can be suitable. Whereas coming to the cost, as obviously the primary refrigerant is a combination of different chemicals, and the cost is high, whereas the secondary refrigerant, as we have seen those examples, they are very cheaper one, the cost is low. So these are few of the differences we have identified from the primary and secondary refrigerants. We can also note it down, write a few other points also regarding some examples, note it down from the primary and secondary refrigerants. You can write that as also differences. Okay, so hope you have understood all the topics what we have covered. Seen the objectives: ozone depletion, the phasing out of chlorofluorocarbon refrigerants, Montreal and Kyoto protocols, differences between the refrigerants, primary and secondary refrigerants. Okay, so this is the end of the session. So hope you got enough information regarding the refrigerants what you have seen in the previous video classes. This is the third video class under the this refrigerants. Got enough information, so we'll meet in the next video class. So thank you very much. So these are frequently asked questions, so you can read it out on the screen. What are the reasons of ozone depletion regarding the Montreal and Kyoto protocol? You can write the statements about them and the differences between the primary and secondary refrigerants. Okay, so these are questions may be asked. So thank you.